Hello, everyone. It's me, Jenna Ryan. And today I want to do a little audio for you guys talking about dealing with your anger. Dealing with your anger. Now, I'm going to talk about this in a very deep way because, that's the way I do things. I go a little bit deeper than the surface, and that's part of why people listen to me, I guess, because I'm not afraid to share about my own situations. And so we're going to talk about dealing with anger today. Now, we're talking about the kind of anger I'm talking about can be obvious. It could be anger that you express, but really what I'm focused on is anger that is unexpressed. This would be the repressed type of anger. It's an underlying anger that the person who is angry is not aware of. It's underneath the surface. If you think of a glacier that has the top of the glacier you can see above the water, but a lot of this stuff is going on in the subconscious, below the level of awareness. And so part of the healing journey, part of the healing process is about bringing the unknown into the known, becoming aware of what is in your mind, what is in your heart, soul, body, underneath the surface, and in your subconscious. So that's what I really want to talk about, is how to get in touch with repressed anger. So first, I just want to say that the anger that is repressed that you don't know about is there. What is the origins of this anger that I'm talking about? Well, if you are like me, you're a childhood trauma survivor, or you've gone through trauma, or you have something, you may not even realize yet that you've gone through trauma. A lot of people don't even know. That's the saddest part, is people that don't realize they went through trauma when they actually did. At least in my situation, and in many people's situation, we actually had physical trauma that caused us to know that there was something going on back there in our childhood between ages 0 to 7 that really messes with our minds today, and has really, because that's when you develop. But many people out there think that they just had everything peachy keen, and so they're unable to see what really is causing these triggers, this anger in them today. When I'm talking about anger, I'm not talking about anger as a negative thing, because I believe that anger is one of the, 7 emotions, the 5 emotions that Darwin came up with, that every single human, we all have a range of emotions. And every emotion is helpful and useful and teaches us and directs us and guides us and helps us. So anger is a very helpful emotion. When you have regular anger, that's just anger because you're being harmed or whatever, or you feel a sense of anger, it could be that your boundaries are being violated. It could be that you need to take action to set boundaries. It could be that there's something really that makes you angry. If you have a death in your life, you have a sense of anger. There is a process of grief where anger is a part of it. So anger is a very valuable emotion, and so much of our society teaches to hide your anger, to squash it, to hate it, to shame it. There's no shame in being angry. But there's a lot of pain and there's a lot of problems when you have repressed anger that you don't know is there. And it's underneath the surface, and underneath the surface you are boiling. So I was in therapy years ago, and I remember I was really going through feeling like I was being harmed by people in my social group. And I was like, this person, I was complaining to my therapist. It's like, this person did this to me, and this person did this. And, I was really offended. I had a lot of offense within me. I felt offended. I didn't really know how to set boundaries at the time, and I was just getting started, but I knew that these people were ticking me off. And this very skillful therapist, even though she was harsh, it was like pulling a Band-Aid off, or just, waxing your waxing your mustache if you're a girl. Your little mini mustache. Anyway, it's very painful to discover things in therapy. It's painful, but it's the pain that brings the awareness that helps you to resolve things. It's when you go around and just ignore what's going on that you continue and you're unable to resolve patterns and you're unable to know what's going on. So anyway, I remember closing my book that I had with me, and she said, "You seem angry." Okay? These very simple words. And that ticked me off at the time. I was like, and I remember journaling, "I'm not angry. She thinks I'm angry. I'm not angry. I'm not angry at all." And it took me a good while to really let that very simple phrase, "You seem angry," to soak in and not take offense at the actual therapist who was actually, looking back, I don't think she was that, anyway, long story short, even a bad therapist can help you sometimes. So she said, "You look angry." And I said, "I'm not angry." Okay, so what was that? That was a defense. That was a psychological defense. I was not ready to see or accept that I was angry. So I immediately came back with a self-protective phrase and a denial that what she was saying was true. Part of healing, part of growing and becoming aware and conscious of your shadow self, so to speak, is by laying down your psychological defenses when possible and really taking a cold, hard look at yourself, especially when you're paying someone, by the hour to look at you and you're sharing your stuff. Anyway, so I discovered through that process of unraveling that feeling that actually I was angry, that I did have anger. And I've learned since that we hold anger in our bodies, specifically in your hips. Because I remember I would do so much, working out and yoga and things like that. And my hips would they would seize up. But since I've dealt with the anger over the years, that doesn't happen to me anymore. So, there's lots to this. But anger, the point is anger, repressed anger. This is anger that you are unaware of. Anger that is beneath the surface. And this anger shows up in myriad ways. If you have emotions as a child and you are unable to express your emotions, such as anger, then those emotions will come out in maladaptive ways later on in life and potentially even in adolescence. Your anger must be expressed, must be felt, must be acknowledged, must be accepted in order for it to be integrated into your whole self and in order for you to actually use your anger constructively to benefit your life and use it as the emotion that it was created and intended to be used as. However, if you harbor repressed anger and you are afraid to deal with it, unable to deal with it, don't even know it's there, refuse to face it, refuse to even see it, build psychological defenses to keep you from feeling that intense feeling of anger, then you're going to experience some very negative consequences, as will the people around you. When you are growing up as a child, it is very important that you are validated, that your feelings are okay, that your feelings are mirrored, that your feelings are validated, as in Alice Miller's book, Drama of the Gifted Child. Love the book. And she discusses about how a child really must be validated. Their feelings must be validated, all of them. So when a child is angry, it needs to be okay for the child to be angry. And if the child grows up in an environment where anger is not okay, then that child will learn to pretend. That child will learn to pretend to be someone they're not. They will learn to gloss over their feelings, gloss over their anger, and pretend, and basically be an actor, an actress. Especially if you're interrupted during your 2-year-old era, when you're 2, and you learn how to say no, and you learn how to be assertive, and that's why they call it the terrible twos, is that a child is learning how to be assertive by saying no and having their no validated instead of shoved under the rug, ignored, made fun of, or having their spirit broken. Because if you don't allow a 2-year-old to go through that 2-year-old me, no phase, then that's the equivalent of a broken spirit. You break someone's ego, you break their spirit, you break the child's spirit, depending on their temperament and, nature versus nurture. So you've got to let the child go through that process. And if a parent doesn't do that right, then the child is not going to know how to accurately express anger. And so many parents didn't know how to do it themselves, and it's a generational thing, and they don't do their own work, and they're unconscious, and they see the child's anger as maybe a threat or maybe something negative, and they don't allow the child's anger to exist and be validated. So what happens when your feelings are shoved beneath the truth of who you are is shoved below? What happens is, and it can be shoved away in many ways, but I'm just saying one way is to be not validated, not allowed to express your anger, shut down, not allowed to cry. Or if you have parents that said, if you don't quit crying, I'm going to give you something to cry about, where your feelings were not okay, then you were trained, because during ages 0 to 7 is when you learn to be a person. That's all your programming, okay? Anything after that is just repetition of all the crap you learn from 0 to 7. And you can repair and heal, but you have to do it as an adult consciously. So if you don't deal with that anger, or if your anger is not validated, then it does not go anywhere. Alice Miller has another book called The Body Never Lies, or something like that, where she was beaten with a belt when she was little, and she talks about how that anger stays in the body, because when you're hurt and abused, the natural response of a human is to be angry. If you had any kind of trauma, age 0 to 7, then you might have repressed anger that you are unaware of. And if you have repressed anger that you have within, then you might want to look at that age 0 to 7 era and see if there was something there, maybe that you can go back and mend and heal. So anger comes out, but not directly, not consciously. So most of the time, if you grew up in this kind of fashion, then you're not in touch with any of your feelings, because none of your feelings were likely okay. If somebody is not going to let you be angry, they're probably not going to validate your happiness, joy, sadness. They probably can't tolerate any emotions. They probably don't have any emotional regulation. So you grow up, you're in adulthood, and you don't have any emotional regulation. Well, these emotions have to go somewhere. They're energy in motion. Energy in motion, that's an emotion. And so this energy has to go somewhere. It has to have a release. It's a tension. And if it is unable to be expressed for its rightful reason, then it has to be expressed in other ways. And that can come out in your everyday activities as an adult. Yeah, it sticks around. It sticks around until it's resolved. So some people will go to their grave, never facing their anger, never acknowledging the root cause, never acknowledging that they're boiling under the surface, or even that it is there. And then it can show up in your later years in an extreme fashion if you didn't deal with it all of your life, if you didn't integrate this angry state that is within. So the ways that it can crop up in day-to-day life is resentment. So a lot of times when we're dealing with the people pleaser or the codependent, give, and then you're angry because you're not getting reciprocity. And, you're just repeating those patterns and you're rightfully angry. But it's not all right to be angry for not taking care of yourself as an adult. When you're a child, you were supposed to be allowed to be angry and experience your anger and express it in a healthy fashion with adults that could help regulate and be there for you and help you to express yourself. But if you were not, then you've got to learn to do it for yourself today. And that is no easy task. Now, what I'm going to talk about in resolving your anger through the healing process, I will tell you, it is super duper uncomfortable. Anger, I would say, is one of the most absolute uncomfortable feelings, especially repressed anger. It is so uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable. And I hate to talk about uncomfortable things because, who wants to talk about that? I would rather numb out and not think about what's uncomfortable. But if you want to heal, you've got to deal. You got to, what do they say? You have to feel it to heal it. So you just have to feel it, and you just have to allow the anger to exist. So I want to show another way that people express anger that I can see very clearly now when I watch people. So I'm like watching, let's say I'm watching a TikTok, and you have someone on there that is very self-righteous and rightfully angry for whatever reason, or maybe they're giving great advice, but there's just this angry tone. And it's so angry that you can literally see the repressed anger underneath. And even if they're the most wise person and they're saying the most wise things and they're really tapping into a super profound truth, the anger underneath their voice makes it difficult to receive for some of us. So people can feel it. If you don't deal with it and you just have it inside and you don't allow yourself to feel it, then that anger is expressed outwardly. And it shows in your existence and how you speak. It could show in mine. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but it can show in also your actions. So if we're walking around with repressed anger that wasn't validated, that we haven't integrated, that we're unaware of, one way to release this tension is to project our anger onto others and to look at the other guy and say, you are a piece of crap. You're a piece of dirt. And that helps us to release. So you can look at a movie star and say, look what she did. Look at, that girl. Look how she did this to him. Or you can watch a movie and begin to live vicariously through the vigilante and get your anger out. But the problem is the anger must be addressed directly in order to be resolved. Projecting your anger onto others is it doesn't work. You can't do that. It will just come right back to you. You can't do that. You can't project your anger to other people. That's just a symptom that creates more negative energy, more negative feedback, and you're not going to feel good about yourself if you're tearing other people down. And then to do it with lack of awareness on top of that, then you're really messed up. So then you're in a bunch of binds that will be even harder to get out of. So the best thing to do is just to face your anger. And so the way I was able to do it, I'm not saying I'm completely done. Of course, we all have our issues. But one of the ways I did it was what I figured out. I read books on it. I talked to my therapist about it. I did a lot of journaling. And I went to this place where all the anger resides within the soul of myself. And I just had to sit with it. And it felt very painful. But all of that anger left over from all the times that I had been mistreated and was unable to say, wait a minute, buddy, no, that's not going to work. I don't deserve that as a child or whatever. All of that anger was still there. And I had to sit in it and with it. And I did. And sometimes I would have to stop and, take a break for a month or so. Sometimes I would, it's a conscious effort. I'm going to deal with this underlying anger today. What's interesting once you've dealt with your anger is you can see how other people are trying to deal with their anger and blaming the anger on things that the anger has nothing to do with. So that's what our mind will do. Our mind will try to process anger and blame it. I'm angry right now. Like, let's say I'm angry, but I really don't know why. So I just find something. And that way I feel like I have, justification for the anger. And sometimes you do. And sometimes it's good to just acknowledge it. As long, acknowledging it is big time good. At least you're acknowledging I'm angry. But I'm talking, if you're not recognizing that some of your anger is repressed and old and archaic and deep, and it's anger that you're stuffing and shoving and numbing from and dissociating from, and you have a Fugue wall, you have a Fugue state, and it's just kind of like a little angry part of yourself that you don't deal with off to the side. That has got to be integrated with the rest of your being. And you have to accept and love and allow it to exist and express it. You can try all sorts of things. I've been given, there's therapeutic ways to deal with anger. Someone told me once you can, hit a pillow. You can tear up a phone book. You can throw ice at the bathtub. You can, punch a punching bag. I think all of those ways could be useful. For me, it was just more sitting with it. I would do collages of images of how my anger was being expressed within me, how I felt my anger. I would just go get a picture on the internet and print it out or in a magazine and create collages to identify what I was feeling and how the anger was manifesting. And instead of blaming someone else for the anger, instead of blaming myself, I said, here's this anger, here's this repressed, validated anger. I'm validating my anger. It's not my fault. I'm not ashamed of it. It is what it is. And I'm going to deal with it right now. And I'm going to create a collage. And this hurts like hell. But I'm doing this because I trust the process. And I trust that once this anger is resolved, released, experienced, expressed, allowed, and integrated into my being, that I'm going to see the light of day. I'm not going to sit in anger for the rest of my life. This is temporary. It's a temporary feeling. And I did have, counseling and support groups that I was involved with. So I wasn't alone in this. But I said, here I go. I'm going for the gusto. I'm going for the center of the core of this anger, and I'm going to release it and allow it to be released. And I did it in a conscious way, in a careful way, in a healthy way. And that enabled me to stop blaming other people for things that was my responsibility. It helped me to take responsibility for my own life. And it helped me to stop playing the victim in so many ways. It helped me to determine and decipher the difference between real anger or real substantial anger from today and repressed anger from yesterday. It helped me to be able to set boundaries. It helped with my volatility. It helped me to not get so angry, because if you have a bunch of repressed anger, then little things can set you off. For example, I used to hate to hang up my clothes. There's something about the hangers in my closet. And I would do things in an angry way because it was just that repressed anger. But starting to notice, why am I feeling this way about my hangers in my closet? Oh, okay. Maybe I need to sit with my inner child and allow this anger to be and take it easy. And I still have moments of this today in different things. But you can find it in places that you wouldn't expect, like anything that you just can't do. Like, I hate mechanical things. It's probably because I don't have that sense of peace and in certain areas, and there's some anger there that could stand to be resolved. And anger can also come out in strange ways. It can come out in being a victim. It can come out in self-sabotage. It can come out. Your repressed anger can make you lash out at people that you love, and you think you're totally being rational, and you think, because you're not conscious of that under the surface part of your glacier, you're not conscious of the unconscious, of your shadows, you begin to blame other people for how you're feeling and expect them to do something to make you stop feeling how you're feeling. Well, that never works. You're just going to be frustrated and get more angry. The anger also resides in the body. There's that somatic, oh gosh, now I can't remember his name. But anyway, it's the guy that talks about somatic. I'll write it in the description box below. Sorry, I'm over 50. We don't have a memory like we used to. And I just speak all this stuff off the cuff, so it's not as easy as one would think. It's harder than it looks. But anyway, he talks about releasing your anger that is stored within the body. He talks about how the anger or trauma, even like an accident or a traumatic event, gets stored in the body, and the body is unable to release. Kind of like a dog, after a dog gets out of the water, it shakes. It has natural resolution of the tension within. And so many of us are pent up, and we don't allow that completion, and it stays stuck in the body. So being aware that your anger is there, especially if you've never dealt with it and you've had any kind of issues, which everyone has, and it's there, and becoming knowledgeable of it and watching. So now, today, if I see someone and I'm putting them down and feeling the need to put them down, I now take a moment and pause and stop and say, what am I doing here? Is this necessary? Is this, maybe I'm trying to get, maybe I'm trying to slough off some of my own responsibility for my own emotions onto this other person. Maybe I just need to chill. Maybe I just need to relax and take a step back and be a little bit more regulated. Detach a little bit from the situation rather than lash out. And it's really served me well. Dealing with this anger has really helped me to maintain my composure despite obstacles. I'm not saying that I'm perfect, but there's been times where I was able to act and react, or be non-reactive, react less, let's say. It kind of takes away the trigger, and I don't just blow up. And that feels amazing. Whenever that's all I had as a tool before, when you don't know the anger is there and you get really hurt, your only resolve is to blow up. Definitely could use some work on, becoming overly emotional in my life. Oh, yeah. I would say that would be helpful for me. However, I'm much better than I used to be. And if I do that, then I always learn from it, because if I do anything that I see as a little, then I always know to go back under the glacier, open up my consciousness, take my wise mind to look at what's really going on and what the problem really is, rather than thinking something's wrong with me, feeling hopeless. I can actually deal with it and maybe find tools for the future, maybe help my mind realize some stuff about what's really going on, and open up pathways for better relating with myself, others, and the world. So dealing with anger is crucial. Another way that I deal with anger, or have dealt, is by physical activity. And it has to be conscious, I think, for me. It's like I'm consciously going to run right now, and I'm going to listen to this banger music, this really hard metal music. And I don't have to do this as much anymore, but I did. And, this music right now, I am releasing my anger. I would consciously say that. Consciously release the anger. And then begin to listen to your feelings as you go. Listen to your feelings. And if you do experience that feeling of anger, know where you hold your anger. Do you feel it in your chest? Do you feel it in your shoulders? Does your neck get tight? Do you feel a tightness? How do you experience anger? And then begin to label it and put it in its proper position. Because anger, as is sadness, happiness, disgust, whatever emotion you're feeling, is like notes on a keyboard to be played and to be used to your benefit. And if you can feel anger in real time and you're able to take action in real time, where it's not repressed, it's not back there, it's not under the glacier, but you have real, justified anger, then you're able to, first of all, set internal boundaries within. Tell yourself, okay, I'm angry, but that doesn't mean XYZ. That doesn't mean this or that or the other. That doesn't mean anyone else is responsible for my anger. But I am responsible for me, and I'm responsible to take care of me in this situation, which may mean distancing, cutting people off, cutting the person off, moving from the situation, setting a boundary, taking a stand, whatever it is that I need to do to be healthy and express myself in a meaningful way. I hope that this audio is helpful to you today. I really appreciate you guys for listening. Please like, share, subscribe, comment. Love you guys. This is Jenna Ryan. Until next time, I will talk to you soon.